Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, I haven't had the opportunity to talk about Spain. I've watched this because initially I didn't necessarily know how I felt about it, but I think I am coming down on the side of an opinion, so let's talk about it. This is The Guardian. Catalonia referendum, 90% voted for independence, say officials. As it happened, preliminary results announced after Spanish Prime Minister claims no referendum has been held in Catalonia today. For those who don't know, there's a province of Spain called Catalonia. Catalonia is looking for independence. It wants to be its own independent body of sorts, apparently by a vote of 90%. The Spanish government sent jackbooted thugs to beat the shit out of anybody who was going to actually try to vote in that referendum. Essentially sent jackbooted thugs to beat up whoever was going to vote in that referendum that the Prime Minister said never took place. He's saying it never took place because from the standpoint of the state, it is illegal. This brings in a few interesting things. One of the overarching things that I want to bring into it, there are two. Countries tend to like to persist themselves, meaning any country for the most part likes to keep itself intact. If Texas tomorrow said, I'm leaving, the United States will probably fight a war to keep Texas. Texas would not be allowed to secede from the Union, at least without a huge amount of pushback on them trying to do so. That's the first point. The second point has to do with the powers of state. So, state, really, the only power that state has is force. Ultimately, state compels people to do things that they want them to do by force. I'm going to lock you up. I'm going to beat you up. I have the money that you've given me through your taxes to pay jackbooted thugs to beat the shit out of you, whatever we need to beat the shit out of you to get you to do a particular opinion. In this case, it didn't work. These people still went to the polls and they still overwhelmingly voted for independence. Let me read through some of the article. The Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy said earlier the referendum only served to cause serious harm to coexistence among Spaniards, but he is not going to close any doors to dialogue. Aren't you nice? You still sent jackbooted thugs to beat the shit out of people who wanted to actually make that vote, though, didn't you? Now, the Pope even gave his opinion on this. The Pope made a plea for unity during a tour of northern Italy on Sunday. During a stop in Bologna, I want to say Bologna, that's funny. In a stop in Bologna, he told students they had a right to culture, hope, and peace, and that recent populist and nationalist movements in Europe were threatening the peace. Pope Francis didn't refer directly to the violence in Catalonia's banned independence referendum, but urged Europeans to put aside nationalistic and other interests for the sake of unity. Don't be afraid of unity, he said. May special interests in nationalism not render the courageous dreams of the founders of the European Union in vain. Yeah, that's interesting. We had two bloody wars in Europe. And it's not we. It was we. The United States got involved in those wars. Two bloody wars in Europe. So you can understand this idea of independence and this idea of keeping people together and keeping Europe together. I can understand it. It makes sense. Let's keep going into the article. In fact, I want to show you some of the stuff that took place. Police are police anywhere. There was a guy, I need to find this quote. It's an amazing quote. It was plutocrat. I can pay half of the population to murder the other half of the population. Essentially, when you control the purse strings, you control what amounts to these people having this idea of scarcity. How are you going to pay for your mom? How are you going to pay for your health care? How are you going to pay for your education? How are you going to pay for the things that you need to persist yourself? As a human being, you can't persist yourself based on your own, know-how. In our particular society, we have niches. We go into this thing like cogs in a wheel, depending upon what we're going into as this career path. We don't know how to farm, per se. Meaning, at the very least, we need to go somewhere to buy food. In order to buy food, you need this thing of cash. The state is the apparatus that makes the cash. Now, in the European Union, for the most part, has taken their powers away from the governments or the individual governments. But you still have the situation that people need to work in order to make ends meet. Meaning, if I need to keep my family intact. I need to work. What am I going to do for work? If you're a thug and a jackbooted thug and you're good at beating people up and you don't necessarily have a good conscience, hey, the state has a job for you. You could be a cop. You could be a cop. You can be on the news doing stuff like this. Just to pause for the moment. Yes, he was pulling that woman by her hair. He was dragging that woman out by her hair. If that was America, they would have shot him. If that was America, they would have shot him. At the very least, they're fortunate they're in Spain. That being said, that is not necessarily something you want to see and you want to look at. Now, okay, to be fair, if this was America, they would have just pepper sprayed everybody and they would have beat shit out of everybody. So let's be fair. They would have had military equipment and everything else surrounding the poles and all this other stuff. But this is Europe. They're gentler in Europe. They grab people by the hair, they rip people off and throw people down the stairs. Newsflash. If for any reason you are required as a government to go out and stop people from taking a vote, whatever that vote is, if you need to send jackbooted thugs out to beat the shit out of people for going out and voting, you're on the wrong side. You're on the wrong side. I didn't, my original opinion on this was unclear because I understood this thing that Spain wanted to keep itself intact, and I tried to look at it from the standpoint of the United States. From a humanistic standpoint, I tried to look at it and say, should people have the right to self-determination? And I'm stuck with the answer of yes. Any particular person should have the right to self-determination. You have a group of 90% of people who are saying we want to do our own self-determination. We want to be a part, something separate and distinct from the Spanish government. For whatever reason, they want to be separate and distinct from the Spanish government. What caught me on this, where I felt like I was being duplicitous. Duplicitous is the wrong word. I felt like I was taking two different positions, but I realized I wasn't taking two different positions. The positions were the same. I tried to apply it to the Civil War. If it was a state in the United States that decided it wanted to leave, would I feel the same way? If Texas said we want to cede from the Union, then Texas can go fuck itself. Yes, I'm okay with Texas leaving. Let Texas buy its own Air Force and Navy and everything else, and let Texas see how it fares. If California wants to do it, I don't want California to leave. But it's California's choice. It's California's choice. The Civil War was the thing that I originally was hung up on. You had a band of rebels, a band of terrorists, who said they wanted to leave the South. Abraham Lincoln said no, and they fought a civil war in order to maintain the South as part of the United States. Here's the catch. They wanted to secede from the Union in order to maintain slaves. Essentially, they wanted self-determination for themselves, but not self-determination for a whole sect of people who they were enslaving and treating as subhumans. That doesn't count. Those people are terrorists. We want self-determination to take away self-determination from somebody else. That sounds insane. People should have the right to self-determination. I can't find any other opinion. I'm stuck with no other opinion. I don't have this thing where I feel there's nothing in me that necessarily wants to see Spain break up. So don't misunderstand me on that. I also understand this thing as president of Spain. The last thing you want to do is, or prime minister or whatever the leader is in Spain, the last thing you want to do is preside over something that found the Spanish country or Spain broken up. I get it. Fair point. You're sending police, though, with helmets on to beat the shit out of people, throw them downstairs for having the temerity to vote for self-determination. That's what I'm stuck on. If you're going to wear helmets, you shouldn't wear helmets. If you're going to beat people and abuse people, the very least you can do is show your face when you do it. Very least you can do is show your face. Don't hide behind some helmet like they used to do in the South when they would hide behind these white masks. And no, I'm not saying that people are racist. I'm just saying, as a human being, another human being says, hey, I need you to go out and beat the shit out of some protesters. And your response to that is, okay, there's something wrong with you as a human being. I'm going to go out and injure people. I'm going to go out and pull people out by their hair. I'm going to go throw people down the steps. I don't care what country you're in. I hate that behavior. That behavior is appalling to me. You're actually abusing other human beings because the state told you to do so. Another human being told you to go out and abuse other human beings, and you thought it was okay because somebody else told you to do it. I'm telling you, it's not okay. It's not okay. You should conduct yourself in a particular way. If those people want to go and vote for a referendum, then those people are going to vote for a referendum. Should people have the right to self-determination? That's what it boils down to me. That answer is yes. If you're asking that question and your answer is no, people shouldn't have the right to self-determination, that would be an amazing perspective to me. I understand that the Spanish government has a certain interest. Again, that has an interest in maintaining Spain. So I understand it. I fully understand it. My sympathies are there. It's not this thing of where I think it's easy for a government to break apart. I don't think that at all. What I am seeing, however, is the government taking a stance saying, you're not even going to have a referendum. And now that you had a referendum that 90% of the people saying they wanted to leave and be their own thing, you're trying to pretend that that referendum didn't take place, using cops in order to try to deter people from going and voting. If you're using cops in that way to harm your own civilians, your own citizens, who just want to make a vote, who just want to state their opinion, we want our own self-determination, whatever the reason. Whatever the reason. I try to apply the same thing here in the United States. What if a state wanted to leave? What if some faction of the United States wanted to leave? I'm not talking about 10 good old boys. I'm talking about a large faction of the country said, we want to be something fundamentally different. Would I feel the same way? I think the answer would be yes. I think it would be yes. Yeah, I think it would be yes. Unless there's some competing interests that, for whatever reason, I find is a loophole or caveat. Yeah, for the time being, that's where I stand on it. I had difficulty with this one originally because I started was like, what about the South? Would I feel the same way with this, the whole Civil War thing? But again, they were doing that for slaves. They wanted to stop others from having self-determination while at the same token screaming at the top of their lungs that they want self-determination for themselves. A band of terrorists don't count. These people aren't terrorists. They're citizens of Spain that want something fundamentally different. And the Spanish government, again, with a vested interest in not allowing them to do it, is sending police and doing whatever they can to get in the way of it. The question becomes, what takes place? Is Catalonia going to be its own fundamental thing, meaning its own state, its own state, its own country at that point? Country. Or will the Spanish government be able to find some kind of compromise to kind of mend those ties? Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the work through Patreon. Thanks guys.